Hi, I am not going to do you like most internet recipes with a story of my life that led up to this moment before I give you instructions. So we go right to the ingredients. We will be using DMC color thread or whatever you wish if you're not following the chart colors. I am using linen fabric, but feel free to use whatever you want. The only one I would not recommend is synthetic. I feel that most synthetic fabrics are not very absorbent, and it's kind of like the purpose of napkins. So we are going to skip on the synthetic. I have fabric scissors and little snip scissors, whatever those are called, for the threads. Again, these two are not requirements. You can just use your kitchen scissors for all that matters. I just use those because they are convenient and I have them. Another important key factor is I have canvas soluble Aida. So basically what that is just like Aida cloth. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Aida. It's a grid and it helps you with knowing where to make the X's for the stitches when the fabric is not a cross-stitch friendly fabric. And when you are done, you just soak it in warm water and it just disappears. Next, I do have a embroidery hoop there, but I will not be using it. Some people I know are big fans of the embroidery hoop, so I put it there, but this is very optional. Going back to the left, I have sewing pins to keep the canvas, the soluble canvas in place while I sew it on so that I don't have any bumps on it, so it's nice and flush and flat on the fabric. I have sewing thread and this is for the edges, and I also have my embroidery needles. So this is all we need to get this project done. Due to technical difficulties, I completely lost the footage of me cutting the fabric. So we're right here to the part where you iron it. I have a 26 by 26 inch square. I wanted my final product to be about 21 inches, and that's exactly where I landed when it was done. So the first thing you want to do is make one fold for the initial seam of the napkin. We are going to make a double seam, but we have to make mitered corners first. So the first thing we're going to do is iron those seams nice and tight. Just one fold, about 1 centimeter. As you can see there, we have it. And when you fold the following seams, make sure that the bottom edge of the new seam matches very well with the bottom edge of the seam before it to make a nice 90-degree angle. The more precise that we are, the better it's going to come out. I didn't use any real measuring tools at all besides my eyes for this project, with the exception of the initial measurement of the napkins, because I did want them to be equal sized. And after this, we just press all the seams, make sure everything's very nice and crisp. The crisper you have that edge, the better it's going to come out after. Now we speed along so as not to be too boring. And I am a recovering perfectionist. So that's one of the reasons I didn't use measuring tools for everything. I really feel part of the beauty of these kind of projects, of these handmade projects, is the lack of perfection. And I have children, and so to me it's important that when they grow up they remember, oh, I chose the frog napkin and that one had a little bit of a wonky edge, or I had a piece of thread where it shouldn't have, and it just gives it a personality, I think. Now see here, when I turned it over, I noticed that that side had a little bit of a bow to it. I don't know if that's the right word, but a a curve to the edge, so I came back and straightened it out. And sorry for all my pauses and my, how do you say, I have a lot of languages going through my mind. So there you have it. That's as close as we're going to get. And now comes the tricky part, but perhaps it's not as tricky as I think. You fold it like so, and it's good to have some type of straight line that you can align the bottom fold to. And then you just pop, you see, you just kind of, this is like origami. We just pop that corner out like a little bird head. And then we lay it down along our model line. With the ruler, we align the bottom of the ruler, as you're going to see here, with the bottom of the fold. This is important because we want to have a 90-degree angle between that bottom fold and the outer edge of the ruler. So see, we make a line with a chalk pencil, and now we have a 90-degree angle between the pencil line and the bottom fold. And then we're going to just simply repeat this on all corners. So I'll let you see it again because I know it's a little tricky, it's a dark fabric. And my machine is in the basement, so the lighting is not perfect. So that's what it looks like, and we just pop it out like a little bird head. See him? There we go. And where we make the line is right there where the fold meets the bird neck, if that makes any sense. It's right where the fold and the bird neck meets, and I take the stray threads away because my machine is old and it can cause me problems if it somehow gets pushed into the little sewing hole. So again, we line up the bottom fold with our straight line, and that line right there, that's edge of the ruler with the bottom fold, and we align the outer edge where the bottom fold meets the neck of our little bird head that we made. And that should get you a beautiful, unmeasured 90-degree angle. Ta-da! See, there's that point where it meets the neck. Really feel it's important to reiterate that. And then we reopen the napkin and do the same thing to the remaining corners. And I'll show you that one more time. Again, I understand it can be a bit tricky, so we'll show it once again. We got our little bird neck popped out. We align our bottom fold with our straight line model. And it's good to make sure that all the edges are equal and touching, and that will keep things nice and even. And we make the line right where the fold meets the bird neck. And the last one. When I learned how to do this, I don't know if it's my dyslexia, but I watched it so many times being done until my brain was able to comprehend. And here we have our 90-degree angle. It's a team effort between all the edges of the napkin and the ruler. Now comes the sewing part. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew right along the chalk line, just a wee bit. So I started right at the edge, and to keep it strong, because these things are supposed to be durable and they are going to be used every day, I hope, or almost every day, until I make more napkins. I do sew it forwards and see that little switch I just turned up, then I sew it backwards, and then I'm going to sew it forwards again. That way it's very sturdy corner. And you're just going to do this for all of them. Now here comes a bit of a tricky part. You want to have the folded part facing you and those two edges we just put together facing out, and right above the thread line is where you put your scissors. Be sure not to cut the thread, and then you make that little wedge shape. See how it sloped up? I didn't cut a straight line, but instead I made a little wedge shape, and this is important for the next step. So there it is, and now we are going to just pop it right out, or in, no, right out, into a little mitered corner. And you pop again. And you can do this with your fingers. Some of them are more cooperative than others. I like to give it a little press so that they know where they're going to sit. And pop. And some of them are uncooperative. So I got a little machine tool I had, and it just helps me pop that corner out. Be sure that it's not a pointy tool, or it can poke a hole through the fabric. And our last one. It's a cooperative one. See, it just naturally makes that second folded seam with our little origami methods. So we take it to the iron once again, and we make nice crisp lines of our folds. And I try not to go over the corner itself until the two sides that makes that corner are both ironed into place, because then you can iron the corner where it shouldn't be. Voila. That one's a little wonky. We're fixing him. And it's good to align the line that we made in our mitered corners with the natural line that forms when we fold our napkins. And there we have it. We have our second seams. Everything is very sturdy. It is going nowhere. It shan't fray. And I like turning it over, because when I turn it over, I feel like I can see the edges better without being distracted by the inside edge of the folds. make sure everything is straight and even as possible. Flip it over, make sure everyone is in order, and to the machine we go. I always start out by going forwards about 3 centimeters, and then backwards 3 centimeters, then forwards again. My thread had broke here, and so I skipped that part of the video, so it's just me starting straight ahead. And you can do this by hand, it just takes a little longer. Oh, here I am cutting the beginning thread of the sewing. When I finish it, when I go back to that corner, I didn't want it to get sewed together with the new stitches or something, that extra thread. But like I was saying, I try to keep as close as I can to the inside edge and not the outside edge when I'm sewing these sides together, because if I put it too close to the outer edge, there'll be like a flap, and sometimes it might not sew the original edge, which does fray. It might not sew it together if you keep too much to the outside. Now here's the method I was talking about. I do this in the beginning and the end, which is going forwards and backwards. My machine is from 1928, so we're soon coming to a centennial birthday for her. And then I clip all of the extra thread that's left at the end. And voila, we're ready for the next step. I believe the majority of my patterns for this project were about 35 by 35 squares, so I cut extra so that I have room to sew the square onto the fabric. Now I choose the corner where I'm going to embroider, and I line up the corners of the square with the sides of the napkin. But here's a little trick. One of the sides of this plastic canvas is rough, where they poke the holes through, and one side is smoother, which is where these needles or whatever they use to poke come through or come in through. I don't know if it shows well on camera, but I tried. I tried to show you. And so I put the rough side facing the napkin so that it helps with grip. And now I'm going to use one pin. I try to keep it flat. As you see, I poke straight through, trying to keep it all as flat and touching the fabric as much as possible. Otherwise, you can have like an air gap, if that makes sense, between the plastic and the fabric. And I'm only going to use one, because if you put too many pins, you'll make these curves, as you see, and that can mess up at the end and give you a bump where you don't really want one, and that can mess up the alignment of the little X's of the cross stitch. And then when you dissolve the fabric away, it will be a hot mess. And I just start with a quick little loop. These stitches are going to be taken out when we're done embroidering, so I don't take much care about how they look or any such thing, as long as it holds the plastic canvas to the cloth. the struggles. And there you have it. And then I just put the needle through the little loop. And voila. And then I pull and the loop tightens and it holds it there. And I cut this shorter so that it doesn't get tangled in the embroidery. I'm all about cutting the extra thread. And then you just proceed along. I use the closest row of little holes to the edge so as to give me as much space to work with the cross stitch as possible. And we hurry along. I always press the plastic to make sure it's flush with the fabric. And once I start the second edge, I move it like so, so that it doesn't bubble. See, it just shapes better with the fabric when I move the pin like so. And now we arrive to the third edge, and I have to remove the pin, otherwise we will have problems, bubble problems. We put that fella back where he goes and we continue. And as you can see in the speediness, I still try to make sure that it's nice and flush with the fabric. Simple little knot at the end. And we are done. But by pinning it the way I showed you, you will see that it really yields a great result. There's no space between the canvas, the soluble canvas, and the fabric. It moves completely along, see? And our stitches will be nice and cute. Now I know there are many ways to start a cross stitch, but for this occasion, with the canvas situation and the fabric, I like to start with either a knot or just folding one thread in half and putting both ends through the needle. And then I find the bottommost row in the embroidery chart, and then I find the middle, and I count from the middle to the left how many little squares there are until the first stitch in that bottom row. And I just count again from the middle of our little square and do that. And that's where I start. I know many people like to start from the middle of the chart, but I don't. I like from the bottom. And as you can see, I just put the needle through the two pieces of thread below the knot. And what I'm going to do with the tail of that knot, so it's just not swinging around during meal times, is I am going to bind him with the following stitches. See, and now he is bound. And not all stitches are going to be in a straight line. For example, this is the raindrops in the rainbow and stormy cloud design. And so I'm just kind of guiding that little tail along to the stitches as they come and just binding him there, and then towards the end, if there's any substantial piece left, I just cut it off. Again, I apologize for all my pauses. On YouTube, I try to keep things scripted because it is difficult for me sometimes to just speak. And this is the other method I was saying, where you just take one string and fold it in half and put both ends through, and I have that loop, and it puts the needle through that loop in the back on our very first stitch. And there you have it. And there are some half stitches or quarter stitches through this chart, and I will be addressing those, so that if you have any questions about what that is and how to handle it, I will show you. And now to end, I just stick the needle through some stitches, making sure that I'm not going through the fabric, and just keeping under the stitches, and then I just snip off the little tail. Now in these patterns I do have 2 French knots and our half stitches, and here I'll show you the French knot. I'm not even going to try to verbalize this. I try to keep it tight. See, and here it escaped me. That's okay. Because I do want a small, tight little knot. If you want to make flowers and such things, I feel like being looser is fine. But I'm trying to keep the spiral tight against the needle so that I have a very nice, tight little circle shape. There we have it, and now I pull the needle through with much effort, and that will hold the little spiral there. See, a very nice, neat, sharp little circle. Were I making little flowers or such things, I would be much looser. But see, it is 2 in the sun eyes and 1 in the moon eye. And they're very nice to feel. I like putting my finger on it. Now, if you see the half stitches, what I like to do is I put the quarter stitch under the edge stitch. So see, I just, instead of going diagonally to the next little hole, I just poke a hole right in the middle of the square. See it? And then to keep things neat, I come along and make that other stitch that goes across it like a little bridge. And this is what they look like in the chart. So it's like there's several of them. Now see right there, I just did a half or a quarter little stitch for the yellow. So the yellow came from the right into the middle, and then the black came from the top left into the middle, and then I put the black outline across it between both. And if you have any further questions, just ask. I will be including a chart with the post that has these, or perhaps I'll make a separate post. Either way, it will be available on the Patreon, so that if you have any questions about it, it will be clarified. Snip. Away thread. This one is done. Now I just cut the corners of these holding stitches. The knots can be tricky. I might have to do some extra snips around them. And then we just pull in a very satisfying way. And pull. Oh, I love this part. That one is not budging. He is very, very persistent in staying. Oh, so smooth. I just love the pull. It's so nice. And there you go. Now what I like to do so that I don't have so much extra stuff to dissolve is I cut the soluble canvas, or the plastic as I've been calling it, around the design so that I don't have to worry about extra. And whatever this is made out of, it can leave the fabric quite stiff, almost like a starch, which might be what it's made from. And so it does take more than just rinsing to make it fabric-y again. So I'll show you how. We go back in time into the little sun, and I just pour some hot water from the kettle, and there's instructions in the package that the canvas comes in, and the packaging was deceivingly large. I thought that I was going to get several sheets. There was one sheet. And I ate it a little bit by just rubbing it. And after it's all done, you feel like a little bit of slime. I tried to just kind of rub the slime away. And then I just take it under the sink and rinse it. Or you can skip that step and just toss it in the wash. And after everything is washed and dry and nice and fabricy and not stiff and starchy, I would not rub my iron on that starchy feeling. We just iron them. And I'm just very pleased with these designs. I think they're so cute, and if you don't want to make napkins, you can use them for just anything. I think they're adorable. You can adorn a jacket. Oh, there's a little cameo from the landlord, my other half. I'll have to fix something. Here's my little butt mushroom, inspired by one of my favorite Instagram accounts, Autumnal Wood, and it's actually what inspired this entire project. I saw the little dancing mushroom with its little butt on her account, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to immortalize this in some way, and I need to see it all the time. It's just so cute. And my daughter is also in love with it. So we made napkins, and then I had to make designs that match that kind of springtime, even though it's autumnal wood. I try to keep it springy with some flowers and just little nature scenes, little nature animals. Keeping it cute and springy. And it's just something lovely that the family can use and remember, and it's fun to have the children choose what napkin they want to use or fight over which napkin. Anyways, that's the end. I am so thankful you stuck around for it. I'm sorry if it's long-winded at parts, but I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be very, very glad to answer them. And wherever you are, whenever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful day, a wonderful time. Ha det!